The big debate today is around illegal immigrants, otherwise known as the Dreamers. I guess that name Dreamer is supposed to elicit some feelings of mirth and levity from us, but anyway, this is a very serious issue. So what's it all about? 4 parts: open borders, anchor babies, chain migration, and the immigrant lotto. All 4 are bad. All 4 will result in unlimited numbers of immigrants from all over the world, whoever, whenever, to flow into this nation and take up residence with no visible means of support and become wards of the American people, if you will. So whose bright idea is this anyway? Well, it's the usual suspects. The Blame America, Hate America crowd in the Democrat Party. America has been blamed for all the ills of the world, and this damnable lie has been used as justification for allowing millions of third world immigrants to flow into this country in huge numbers. Clearly, this will become an unbearable burden on the taxpayer as the years go by, not to mention the negative impact it's going to have on our standard of living. Now, it's a well-known fact that illegal immigrants access the welfare system at a higher rate than citizens. So with 50% of the American population now presently receiving some sort of public assistance, how does one justify allowing millions more to access the system that is already overburdened and barely adequate for the needs?
This is a nation of immigrants. You don't want them here because they're not white. You're a racist.
The ever-present guilt factor. Well, that won't work because I hear that bogus argument all the time. Fact is, when European immigrants began entering America in large numbers from the middle of the 19th century up through the beginning of the 20th century, there were no Social Security benefits, no welfare programs, no Medicaid, no public assistance of any kind. Only private charities, usually administered through the Catholic Church. Those folks had to fend for themselves, and they had to prove that they would not be a burden on the communities that they were about to enter. In fact, from 1925 up through 1965, all immigration was halted to allow the millions who had immigrated in the previous period to assimilate into the American way of life. In other words, to become Americans, not hyphenated Americans, Americans. The leaders of that day had not figured out how to use immigration as a political weapon against their adversaries. They simply wanted to do right by the American people. So who's pushing this and why? Well, the Marxist left that now controls the Democrat Party has systematically worked hard down through the years to make sure that blacks and Latinos remain largely an underclass in America, while at the same time blaming it on American racism. The fact is, the American left cannot exist without some grievance group to represent. If everyone is prosperous and happy and doing well, then the Marxist left has no reason to exist. The Democrats at one time claimed to represent the working class, but the working class got wise. The last election proved that. Now they need a new underclass to exploit in order to create a large voting bloc that will give them permanent control of the federal government. The plan is to flood the states with illegal immigrants and change the demographics, while at the same time exploiting their lack of knowledge and their lack of understanding of what it means to be an American. Need proof? Look at California. California was once a solid conservative Republican state. Landslide victories for Ronald Reagan and the first George Bush. Look at them today, 30 years after sanctuary cities and illegal immigration. California is as blue could be. The man in the moon has a better chance of getting elected governor of California than a conservative Republican. We can't end this conversation without talking about my peeps. African Americans have suffered in the wake of historical, institutional racism down through the generations. High unemployment rates, low skills, poor education, dysfunctional families, boys without fathers, high incarceration rates, poor health, just to name a few of the consequences resulting from unfair treatment down through the years. So how do you explain a political party, led by a black president that would rather shut down the government to protect illegal aliens rather than sit down and work out solutions for poor, disadvantaged Americans who have been unable to access the American dream for generations? Now, the following images are of people you will recognize. Please notice how they have changed their tune down through the years as their party has been taken over by American-hating leftists.
Are illegal aliens, and illegal aliens should not be treated the same as people who entered the U.S. legally. The president's decision to end DACA was heartless and it was brainless.
But we have to send a clear message. Just because your child gets across the border, that doesn't mean the child gets to stay. So we don't want to send a message that is contrary to our laws or will encourage more children to make that dangerous journey.
You recently said instead of building walls, we need to tear down barriers. However, last November in New Hampshire, you openly said that as senator, you voted numerous times to build the wall with Mexico. What's the difference between what you did, voting to build a wall, and what Donald Trump wants to do now?
Well, look, I voted numerous times when I was a senator to spend money to build a barrier. In my first 100 days, I will introduce legislation for comprehensive immigration.
You say anything to get elected.
Well, actually, I have been very consistent over the course of my entire life.